Good afternoon, I'm Vashon Brown with the Midday News. Special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. I remind as well that you can watch TVJ live by downloading our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1 followed by the words Spot Media. As our news center continues to monitor developments at the Firearm Licensing Authority FLA, its Chief Executive Officer Shane Dalling is now describing the issues at the state-run entity as grave and concern national security. His comments come as the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency MOCA intensifies its probe into the granting of some firearm licenses by the FLA. In an interview with our news center last night, Mr. Dalling confirmed that several files at the FLA are now in MOCA's possession. He also confirmed that a major shakeup is coming at the entity.
I cannot discuss everything with the public, and I cannot say everything that is happening. Sufficient to say they are very grave. And as the head of the entity, I will need to carry out a shake-up of the entity to effect some changes and to hold persons accountable and to also guarantee the public that what occurred in the past will not take place in the future. And sometimes it requires fresh minds, new ideas, and new people to implement some of these things that I'm about to put in place.
3 employees have been separated from the FLA since Tuesday. They include the Senior Director in charge of Audit and Complaints and Senior Audit and Complaints Officer, as well as a police officer who was on secondment to the entity. Meanwhile, former chairman of the FLA, Robert Gregory, has criticized the approach taken to publicize the internal procedures and practices of the state-run entity in dealing with the controversy currently facing it. He argues that there were other ways to investigate the matter, which could produce faster outcomes and without distractions. Earlier this year, an employee of the FLA wrote to Contractor General Dirk Harrison outlining alleged issues of corruption at the authority. The employee has also written to the CEO of the FLA, Shane Dalling, on the matter. However, Mr. Gregory states that this approach is faulty because it's anonymous and persons can use it to falsely accuse others of wrongdoing. Speaking on RJR's Beyond the Headlines yesterday, Mr. Gregory asserted that the same objective could have been met using other methods.
Wrong with people writing letters, in concern for their organization that they love so much. But I'm saying how it is handled is important as well. Because not all accusations, these whistleblower allegations, are worthy. People have personal grouses, for example, that have nothing to do with the organization, and take the opportunity to get back at whoever. It's just like, we have a catastrophe like a hurricane, and you have a couple of characters take advantage of it. You don't take this on face value and put it out there and, further sully the name of the organization. Maybe even individuals are sullied by this unsigned allegation by a whistleblower.
Technology Minister Dr. Andrew Wheatley is reassuring the public that newly created governmental portal gov.jm is secure. He said the newly launched portal is a one-stop shop for government services. Dr. Wheatley added that the government is constantly putting measures in place to improve cybersecurity.
Quality service. As it relates to cybersecurity, that is something that is on the front burner for the government. In fact, we have taken cybersecurity that serious that we have a cyber incident response team within the Ministry of Science and Energy and Technology. And that cyber incident response team, CERT, is supported by our partners within the JCF and our international partners.
The portal is part of the government's goal of creating a truly digital society, incorporating ICT in everyday life. Additionally, persons in the diaspora who want to invest in Jamaica can use this portal to access any government information. Now, Dr. Wheatley was speaking at a recent GIS think tank. There are renewed concerns about overloaded trucks and the damage being caused to the road surface. This prompted a meeting yesterday which involved the police and a number of haulage contractors. Head of the Traffic and Highway Division, Senior Superintendent Calvin Allen, says the police will be working alongside the Island Traffic Authority in an attempt to curb the problem.
We're talking about safety generally, but we're also talking about compliance with the law. And so we had very good and spirited discussions on the matter. We clearly outlined what the law speaks to in terms of what sort of tonnage each vehicle is supposed to carry. We have seen situations where some trucks having been loaded is not only overloaded, but the requisite covering that ought to be on the truck is not there.
Renewed calls this afternoon for Jamaica to enact a public passenger transportation policy. It comes as the police and the Jamaica Association of Transport Owners and Operators, JATU, grapple with constant bad road practices by some public passenger transport operators. TVJ's Giovanni Dennis has more in this report.
I was wondering if it's a fake news, because that's what is popular nowadays.
The JATU president was hoping the video was not from Jamaica to spare the association the embarrassment that comes along with it. He says the police and the Transport Authority are not doing enough to enforce existing laws despite several consultations.
We do have consultation with the police officer, with the traffic department, with the Transport Authority, but nothing becomes. We talk and that's the end of it.
He laments that bad road practices have become the norm. In the meantime, Managing Director of the Transport Authority, Cecil Morgan, concedes that more needs to be done, but says support is needed.
Sometimes you feel a little overwhelmed. The kind of support you expect to get from other state agencies, you don't necessarily get them. And the truth be told is that we don't like what is happening in terms of certain things. And we have had regular meetings with the other agencies, and we're saying that more needs to be done.
It's why Mr. Barton is repeating his over 5-year call for the government to enact a national public passenger transportation policy.
Where what is expected of passengers and operators, providers of service, all investors in the passenger transportation sector have a guideline as to what we should do to carry the public in a decent manner.
That call has already found favor with head of the Police, Highway and Traffic Division, Senior Superintendent Calvin Allen.
The whole aspect of training, regular training and seminars for our drivers, not just a matter of just wearing uniform to show that you're a conductor or a driver, but regular training, and for owners also to ensure that the person you select to be the driver of your vehicle, who in essence is now a public passenger driver, operator, are persons who are of a certain standard.
But Mr. Morgan says while he would support such a policy, enforcement of existing laws is what is needed. He says the bigger issue of indiscipline needs to be addressed.
No, the society needs to understand, and the society needs to make a decision as to exactly what is it that they want. Do they want order or do they want chaos? And I think that is a deeper societal problem that we have than we would want to even appreciate.
But why has JATU not implemented its own policies to guide the behavior of its members?
We try to institute policies for our members, but the enforcement again is non-existent. We as an association cannot put pressure on our member. We can ask them, but we cannot pressure them to stop their employees from behaving like that on the bus.
He says with legislative backing, enforcement would be easier and bad drivers or conductors would be easily sanctioned. Giovanni Dennis, TVJ News.
Heavy rains lashed the western end of the island last evening. The rains left motorists and pedestrians stranded in Hanover as the Riley River overflowed its banks and left a section of Malcolm Drive impassable. Motorists and pedestrians had to wait hours for the water to subside so that they could enter Malcolm Drive, which is the main thoroughfare for commuters. Parents will have to pay more for textbooks for the upcoming school year as the price of textbooks has gone up by 6%. Speaking on TVJ's Smile Jamaica this morning, acting senior economist at the Consumer Affairs Commission, CAC, Errol Galbraith, explained why there is an increase in the prices.
Some texts are hardcover versus softcover. Some texts may have new features added to them. Study questions, for example, for some of our literature books. Additional material like CDs or special learning tools as well. So you will find that the books will change the content even over time. That can increase the price.
Meanwhile, President of the National Parent Teachers Association, Everton Hannum, said parents should implement or should find ways to reduce how much they spend on books. The PTA president says parents can get second-hand books at a reasonable cost. He adds that there are core books picked out by the Ministry of Education that parents should buy.
Parents should not purchase all the books at one time. You purchase books according to the semester. And so therefore, if you need X amount of books in semester 1, you purchase those books and do not wait and do not purchase all books for the entire academic year at one time. That's where some of the challenges come in. They would indicate to you, or should indicate to you, for first semester, these are the books that you are going to need in the first semester. Ensure that you have these books.
Meanwhile, the CAC is encouraging consumers to be more proactive.
For example, going on the CAC's website, where we actually disseminate the prices so that consumers can come on and essentially shop around before they shop around. And in that kind of behavior, you force the providers and the retailers to say, okay, these people aren't buying from me because I'm selling at this price. I need to find a way to reduce it so that I can get more consumers from my other competitors.
The Guardian Group Foundation has disbursed over $4 million in scholarships and grants. The scholarships were handed over at the Foundation's annual Scholarship and GSAT Awards ceremony yesterday morning. A total of 31 awardees received scholarships, including the top GSAT boy Alex Gray and the top GSAT girl Grace Lee Bolt. They both received scholarships valued at $250,000 each, covering the full 5-year period at secondary school. 4 tertiary students also received scholarships valued at $300,000 each. The company also awarded 17 GSAT grants, including the top GSAT boys and girls from the Alpha, Denham Town, and Duane Park primary schools. There is some attempt to shore up the peace in Augustown, St. Andrew, following the zero murder rate recorded in the community last year. Since the start of the year, 7 persons have already been killed in the community. A town hall meeting held in Augustown recently centered on building safe and inclusive communities, the Augustown Experience. Speaking at the ceremony, manager for the Restorative Justice Center for Augustown and the surrounding communities, Oral Taylor, outlined how the restorative justice process works.
The aim is to hold the offender who committed the offense accountable, and they can give them the opportunity to use the restorative justice process. The way in which restorative justice process works is that it's a voluntary participatory process. The parties involved would have to express their voluntarism to use restorative justice to arrive at justice instead of using the court system.
Mr. Taylor also spoke about the requirements for effective restorative justice.
There has to be a clear offense. Something have to happen wrong. Somebody have to be violated. And the type of offense that we deal with in restorative justice are minor offenses, not the major offense. We do not deal with gun offenses that involve guns or sexual assault or sexual crimes. But we deal with other minor offenses such as assault of the persons. I heard persons talking about family dispute and stuff like that. These minor offenses that usually lead to bigger things.
The meeting was held in collaboration with the National Integrity Action (NIA) Community Outreach Initiative with support from the European Union. And an editorial note, the police say that a technical glitch in the system at the Statistics and Information Management Unit resulted in data for children murdered being distorted for the parish of St. Thomas. Now, the information given to TVJ News by the police, which we aired this morning, 8 children being murdered in St. Thomas. However, this number was for St. James. In fact, St. Thomas has not recorded any such incident between January 1 and August 12, 2017, or the preceding period. The Jamaica Constabulary Force wishes to apologize for the error in the data. Now, the information has been corrected according to the JCF. Sports now. It's the oldest rivalry in Caribbean football, Jamaica against Trinidad and Tobago. The two will meet on Thursday at the Hazley Crawford Stadium at 7 p.m. Jamaica time.
The Reggae Boys have met Trinidad and Tobago Soca Warriors 59 times, with the Jamaicans winning 24, while 10 ended in drawn results. The boys could join Trinidad with 25 wins, especially with a squad of players who are largely out of competition. But coach Theodore Whitmore says it's a challenge for the locally based players to make a mark.
This game only served to give players going forward, local players, so to speak. I hate to use the word local, but the players who played in a local league, so to speak, to give them a chance and games, because we don't want to only for them to be training players. We have to find games to give them to improve, to showcase their talent, and we welcome this Trinidad game, and it's an opportunity for them to really go out there and fill that gap.
One of the players who is looking forward to some playing time is midfielder Kaheem Paris.
So I can express myself and show them and show the coaches that I need to be in this team, and I'm not going to get out of this team while I'm 17 years old.
Shaven Sean Paul is expected to get the nod in goal ahead of Amal Knight, but that's not a problem to the UWI custodian, who relishes the position of being on national duty.
I think that the exposure will you can take it back to the club level locally, and you can look forward to more things. You'll look at things from a different perspective. So even if I don't get playing time, the experience will be very good for me.
The last time the Jamaicans beat TNT in a friendly international was back in 2010. The Soca Warriors won the last friendly in 2013, but it was the Jamaicans who drew last blood with a penalty shootout win in the 2014 Caribbean Cup final. Reporting for TVJ Sports, I'm Keon Reyna.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Vashon Brown. Join us at 7 for Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, have a good afternoon.